Good morning, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us at the Daniel Morgan Graduate School. My name is Tom Sinkin, and I'm Vice President for External Affairs here at the Daniel Morgan Graduate School. We're very honored today to have with us a member of the Upper House, House of Councillors of the Japanese National Diet, Fujisue Kenzo Sensei, and courtesy in part to my friend Paul Goldstein, who is President and CEO of Pacific Tech Bridge. Thank you for coming out early on a Monday morning. I hope you've been well fortified by coffee. We have some additional coffee available if you need. But I'd like to say a few words about our distinguished visitor. First of all, he's a member of the Liberal Democratic Party and the Voice of the People, which form a bloc in the Upper House. He's been elected several times to the Upper House and to the House of Councillors, where he serves on the Committee on Financial Affairs, the Committee on Audit, the Committee on the Constitution, or Commission on the Constitution, I should say more accurately, and perhaps of special interest to this crowd, the Special Committee on North Korean Abduction Issues and Related Matters. He's from Kumamoto Prefecture, and he has an unbelievable degree of degrees. I'll just start by saying he has twice as many PhDs as I do, and I thought I was pretty cool. So he has graduated from the Tokyo Institute of Technology, the MIT, you may have heard of, with a Master of Science in Management of Technology. Harvard, you may also have heard of. It's a small school, one of our rivals up north. I think it's in Boston or something, where he is a Master of Public Administration. And then he went on to the Tokyo Institute of Technology later in his career, where he got a PhD in Industrial Management. And finally, Waseda University, very distinguished pedigree indeed, where he has his PhD in International Relations. So I'm already quite in awe, but I should mention that he also was a graduate, you could say, of what was called MITI and now METI, the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, one of Japan's power ministries. He served as a professor at the University of Tokyo, Todai, and then his distinguished career in the House of Councillors. So I could go on and on, but rather than eat up too much of the time here, I can just say that having served, among other things, as Senior Vice Minister of International Affairs and Communications, etc. I could go on, as I say, but then I would fill up all of our time. But I hope you will all join me for this special treat of welcoming Mr. Fujisue. Thank you, Sensei. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kenzo Fujisue, a member of the Upper House of Japan. So I would like to make a presentation about the cyber resiliency in Japan's Society 5.0. So you know my background, so he explained in detail. So I would like to talk about my mission. My main mission is rebooting Japan. So at first, after graduating from Tokyo Institute of Technology, I joined Ministry of International Trade and Industry to make Japan, to reform Japan. But in Japanese bureaucrats, all ministry separated. So I was working for a meeting, so I could not touch education policy and pension policy and so on. So I quit meeting in 1999 and moved to Tokyo University as an associate professor. And I was writing many policy for Japanese government. And in 2004, Democratic Party of Japan, DPJ, invited me to be a politician. So, but I'm very worried about of my future because when I was an associate professor, I'm rich, almost rich, professor position, tenure, within 3 years. But I quit at Tokyo University and try to reform Japan, rebuilding Japan as a politician. But unfortunately, DPJ lost ruling position in 2012. Just 3 years government position DPJ had. So after 2012, I cannot continue a position of a parliamentarian because opposite party have no power in Japan. Opposite party cannot make any policy in Japan. So last year, 2 years ago, I established one faction, Voice of People. And last October, my faction have an alliance with LDP. And now I'm belonging to a rural party now. So I can change Japan now. I can reboot Japan now. So this is my short story, but my mission is very clear, just rebooting Japan. And today I would like to talk about the cybersecurity because I have an experience of computer industry policy at MIDI around 25 years ago. And I was a senior vice minister of internal affairs and communication. So this ministry have two senior vice president. One is in charge of internal affairs, and the second in charge of communication. So I was in charge of communication and post. So I have experience cyber, not cyber security, but cyber industry comprehensively. So today I would like to talk about 4 points. 1 point is the cyber security versus cyber resilience. Second, history of Japan's cyber security policy. Third, Society 5.0, a future society of Japan. And finally, Japan's key cybersecurity policies. Cybersecurity versus cyber resilience. So cybersecurity coverage is very small because cybersecurity means prevention. And focus is pre-penetration defense. So this mindset is very similar with margin line mindset. Remember the fall of Paris. So around 80 years ago, so France made margin line, but result fall of Paris. On the other hand, cyber resilience means sustainability, and focus is a continued operation. These are like 500 years ago, Japanese samurai mindset, Josei Senjo. So this means always on the front line, 500 ago. But now, no little cyber security and zero cyber resilience. So we should get Bushido mindset, cyber resilience. Maybe Thomas, you know this guy?
Paul.
Paul.
What is for you, Paul?
Musashi Miyamoto. He's a writer of a book of 5 rings. Very famous, maybe famous in the United States. Yeah, so we should get a Bushido mindset from now. This is a short history of Japan's cybersecurity policy. So Japanese government cybersecurity policy started in 1998. So Japanese government established Act on Prohibition of Illegal Access. But process of cybersecurity policy is very slow. So in 2014, so we, Japanese Diet, established cybersecurity basic law. So this is enacted by bipartisan initiative, including me. So this cybersecurity basic law is the first and only cybersecurity law. Amazing. Just one law related to cybersecurity. And last year, Japanese government decided new national defense program guideline. We call it Boei Taiko. So these guidelines are reviewed every 5 years. And last December, so Japanese government decided new national defense program guideline. So this guideline include cybersecurity for the first time. Amazing, first time. So this is a huge program. This history shows our slow step of cybersecurity policy. And now Japanese government have a concept of society 5.0. Called this 5.0 means a cyber physical integration toward a human-centric society. I think I cannot understand this meaning. So society 1.0 are hunting. Sorry. Okay. Hunting. 待って、これちょっとな、これ。Somebody support me.
Technical guy.
Right.
Yes, I want to get our technical.
Always technical difficulty.
So, 3 guys walk into a bar. No. We'll have to rescue our own in-house cyber guy from.
Okay,
That's not working?
that's right. Okay, so my family.
That's an excellent picture.
Yes. So usually I have no time with family. So Sunday, Saturday, I should work with my daughter. So. Okay. Okay.
It's on the, sorry, go back, exit the.
Well, this is where we need one of those old-fashioned things on TV where there'd be like a strange picture would appear, and they would play music, and they would say, technical difficulties. Usually, you'd see that when someone like punched someone, and then they would suddenly put up technical difficulties.
Okay.
So, no punching
Oh, I
this
think
time,
that's-
this was
Thank you.
an actual technical difficulty.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas.
Oh, my fault.
I'll restart. So society 1.0 hunter and gatherer, and 2.0 agriculture, and 3.0 industrial, and next information, and next society society 5.0. So this is a difference between a cyber society 5.0 and present society, information society 4.0. So Japanese government said in society 5.0, cyberspace and physical space should be integrated into one. And now cyberspace and physical space are separated. So, but I think most important point is in information society, focus is information, just information. However, in my view, in society 5.0, intelligence is most important. Shift from information to intelligence. So using artificial intelligence and IoT, so gather information from everything. In society 5.0, so every service, everything are connected to the cyberspace. Therefore, we should make cybersecurity stronger. So this means cyber resilience. So when we attacked, we protect and recover rapidly. So this chart shows Japanese government cybersecurity policy priority. So 4 priorities. So one is policy development linked with industrial policy. Second, international harmonization. Third, support of creation of cybersecurity business. And finally, 4, development of fundamentals. So I focus now on fundamental development, awareness of management class in Japanese enterprise. This figure shows a result of question survey of a Japanese company and the US European companies. So this question asked how much do Japanese companies care about their contractors' cybersecurity. So only 32% of Japanese companies are worried about contractors' cybersecurity. So on the other hand, US 65%, European companies 53%. So recognition of critical importance of contractors' cybersecurity situation of in Japan is less than half of that in United States, 2/3 of that in European companies. And the next figure shows how much do Japanese companies care about supply chain cybersecurity. So only 24% of Japanese companies recognize critical importance of supply chain cybersecurity. So in United States, 43%, and in European countries, 44%. So supply chains is very important now because now a Japanese company introduce some computer equipment and communication equipment from China. And they just understand first contractor, never second and third contractor. But so 2 weeks ago, Japanese government decided ban Huawei, just 2 weeks ago. And this is my proposal for cybersecurity management. So as mentioned earlier, Japanese companies and cybersecurity management is very weak. So awareness of cybersecurity is very low. So Japanese government have 3 steps. First steps define what is cybersecurity management. And the second step is incentivize cybersecurity management. And the third step, visualize cybersecurity management for investor. So last diet session, I proposed to Minister of Cybersecurity, we should mandate companies to disclose cybersecurity information on their security reports. Even major big Japanese company have no obligation to disclose cybersecurity risk. For example, biggest Japanese bank, that's its security report more than 100 pages, but cybersecurity mentioned just one paragraph, very small, amazing. So usually security reports mention about risks, but in Japan, company never mention about cyber security risk. So we should change. So I proposed to Minister of Cybersecurity a mandate, disclose cybersecurity information on their security report. And two weeks ago, Japanese government decided new cybersecurity guideline, just 2 weeks ago. So this guideline encouraged board member of Japanese company to evaluate cybersecurity using a third-party expert. So I propose mandate Japanese company to disclose cybersecurity issues, risks. However, this guideline just encourage, but this guideline start to disclose cybersecurity risk of Japanese company using third-party expert. This is I think this is a very big first step to deepen awareness of Japanese company about cybersecurity. And this chart shows cybersecurity policy priority of Japanese government. But I should push two points of cybersecurity policy as a lawmaker. First is government reform, and second is increased budget for cybersecurity. So this figure shows a framework of Japanese government related to cybersecurity. So NISC is a center of cybersecurity policy of Japanese government. And Japanese government decided 14 sectors of critical infrastructure. Problem is the first problem is NISC. This organization, fledgling organization. So because this organization was established in 2014 by cybersecurity basic law, very new organization. And the next problem is fragmented bureaucracy. So in Japan, critical infrastructure is protected by each ministry and agency. For example, financial service cybersecurity is belonging to a financial service agency. And telecommunication cybersecurity is protected by Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication. And aviation, airport, railways is belonging to a Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transportation. So like this, responsible minister for critical infrastructure was divided into each ministry. And the problem is level of cybersecurity policy is very different. I think, for example, financial service cybersecurity level is not bad comparing with other countries. But, for example, railways. So Japanese private companies cybersecurity related to railways very low. I think almost zero. Really. So Japan have a very small railway companies, and they have no capability to investment in cybersecurity. I think elementary school children can invade into railway system. Yeah, really. And the fragmented research center. So Japanese government have several research center for cybersecurity, but these research center belonging to each ministries. So for example, National Institute of Communication Technology is belonging to Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication. And the Advanced Research Institute of Industrial Science and Technology is belonging to METI. So they have no integration, coordination now. So we should have make one coordination among Japanese research centers related to cybersecurity. Most important point is NISC. So NISC must be a center of cybersecurity policy of Japan. So we should enhance NISC. So as a cyber command of Japan. So now NISC have only 180 staffs. 180 staffs, very small number. And they have no proper staffs. So their staff are gathered from other ministries and private sector. And more budget. Now NISC have no their own budget, no. So their budget belonging to a cabinet office. And their annual budget is 200 million US dollar. Just 200 million, very small. And they have a very minimized authority. So these problems, to overcome these problems, we should make an establishment law of NISC. So usually a Japanese ministry have an establishment law. For example, Ministry of Finance have an establishment law of Ministry of Finance. So this establishment law give staffs, give budget, give authority. But NISC have no establishment law. So this organization established by cybersecurity basic law, just one law. So we should make establishment law of NISC. And I think most important point is NISC full name, National Center of Incident Readiness and Strategy for Cyber Security. Very long. So I think we should rename as National Cyber Command, NCC. Yeah, so very important point. And it is in terms of the budget of Japanese government. So comparing Japanese government and the US government cybersecurity budget. So US government total budget for cybersecurity 20 billion US dollar in 2018, 20 billion. On the other hand, in Japan, Japanese government have only 700 million US dollar, very small. So US budget is 30 times bigger than Japan's. So this is a big problem, I think. So we should invest, Japanese government should invest in cybersecurity policies. And I visited so many US American research institute related to cybersecurity. These are NIST and MIT and Carnegie Mellon and so on. So for example, 5 years ago, I visited MIT Lincoln Lab. Their budget, annual budget, over 50 million US dollar annual budget. But in Japan, one research institute have around several million US dollar annually for cybersecurity, very small. So we, Japanese parliamentarians, should push research of cybersecurity in Japan. So So I would like to propose one policy. So U.S.-Japan Cyber Resilience Cooperation Agreement. I think Japanese cybersecurity technology and legal framework very behind those of United States. So I'd like to make a U.S.-Japan Cyber Resilience Cooperation Agreement and push U.S.-Japanese ISAC. ISAC means Industrial Cybersecurity Consortium. So I think U.S.-Japan can make a good relationship between industries. And a regular government-to-government communication system. Now, Japanese government and the U.S. government have a dialogue at the level of a deputy director, not to minister, not to director general, very low level. So we should change. And technology transfer and R&D collaboration between US and Japan. And this is very important, harmonization of legal framework. In my opinion, this agreement have 4 pillars. So around 25 years ago, I working for environmental policy division at METI. And our team wrote US-Japan Environmental Protection Research Agreement. So we took around 2 months to write US-Japan Environmental Protection Research Agreement. So I think we can write this agreement within 3 months. I think. So such a agreement can promote our relationship, deep relationship between US and Japan in the field of cybersecurity and cyber resilience. So this shows this figure shows US-Japan ISAC. Last year, the Japanese Diet amended cybersecurity basic law to establish ISAC, Information Sharing and Analysis Center, in every industry sectors. Therefore, now every industry establish ISAC, automobile ISAC, finance ISAC, and so on. And next month, harmonized ISAC. So Japanese ISAC Association will be established next month. So we can make a US-Japan ISAC cooperation. And next, government level dialogue cooperation. So this includes a research institute. And finally, I would like to talk about warfare of cybersecurity. So my concept of evolution of war domains. So more than 2,000 years ago, just land, and 1 dimension, and the sea, 2 dimensions, and air, 3 dimensions, and space, super 3 dimension, and cyber, hyper dimension. And now Japanese self-defense force developing electromagnetic spectrum. So these are EMS influence on all domains. So we call it cross-domain cooperation. So these are, last December, Japanese government decided National Defense Program Guideline. So this guideline have 3 new points. 1 point is new domains recognized. So a new domain which are space, cyberspace, and EMS. So this is for the first time. So in the defense policy, Japanese government decide new domains of war, space, cyberspace, and EMS for the first time. And next, cross-domain. So new concept is cross-domain warfare. And third point is a norm setting. Space and cyber domain, establishing international rules and norms having a security agenda. So norm setting is very important. So new national defense program guideline mentioned. And we lawmaker should make a new step. Now just Japanese government decide new guideline. And next step is a legal framework. So greater Japanese self-defense cyber rule need for a legal framework. This is just an example. Japanese self-defense law, Article 76. So in this article, defense action of self-defense force subject to armed attack. But cyber attacks not clearly defined as armed attack by law. So now Japanese self-defense force cannot protect infrastructure. So now Japanese self-defense force just protect just their command system, not Japanese critical infrastructure. We should change the law of self-defense force. And now Japan have a no defense trade secret act and no defense trade secret authority. So we should make by law. So we next year Japan will have an Olympic game. So I think in Olympic game Japan will have attacked by other country or terrorists in the field of cyber. Yeah, so I'm very worried about railway, as I mentioned earlier. But I think we cannot stop all cyber attack. Maybe cyber incident will occur, big cyber incident will occur in Olympic Games, I think. But I think this is a very good trigger to deepen Japanese people's awareness of cybersecurity. So in Japan, almost all Japanese people never worry about cyber attack now because we have no cyber attack. So I think Tokyo Olympic will leverage a new cyber resilience policy of Japan next year. So first, greater public cyber resilience awareness. And second, fostering Japan's cyber resilience culture. And third, shifting policy paradigm from cybersecurity to cyber resilience. So forever friendship between Japan and the United States. Thank you very much. Arigato.
We have time for questions. I have a microphone, so
Yes.
please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone. And perhaps you could identify yourself.
Thank you.
Well, I've already identified myself, Tom Simkin with Daniel Morgan. I encourage others who ask questions to do the same. Thank you for a wonderful presentation, first of all, and I hope everybody appreciates the fact that this fantastic presentation was not delivered in Japanese, but as a courtesy to us, was delivered in English. So that's doubly appreciative for that, Sensei. Thank you. Now, I understood from Ambassador Bill Haggerty last week, who was in town, that the U.S. and Japan have basically decided that a cyber attack on Japan would invoke Article 5 of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. Mm-hmm. So this was an encouraging development.
Yes.
And my impression, I share that because the top levels, there seems to be a lot of agreement. But I wonder about the lower levels. For example, here in the U.S., the Department of Homeland Security offers that U.S.-based companies and their affiliates have access to a lot of cyber information sharing and assistance, training, portals that provide patches and just updates and so forth. And Japanese companies based here would have access to that. However, I'm not aware of very many Japanese companies that take advantage. I wonder what your impression is of how well Japanese companies are interested in cooperation with the U.S. and whether you get some sense that the Keidanren and Keizai Doyukai are supportive or not very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think lower level collaboration is very weak now between Japan and the United States. I think so. So because maybe legal framework is very weak in Japan, I think. So for example, top level agree 日米安全保障条約 US Japan Security Alliance
Yes, right.
cover cyber attack. So, however, so Japanese legal system never cover cyber attack. So as I mentioned, so at first we make a legal framework for Japanese government and the Japanese industry. I think, for example, we have a no trade secret act. So Japanese, I think personal clarification is very important. So in Japan, no personal clarification. So we cannot decide who can access to cybersecurity information and intelligence. So I think this is a real problem. So yeah, maybe many legal problems because we have just one law, cybersecurity basic law. So from now we should make a new legal framework. That legal framework must be harmonized with U.S. system, I think. So please help me. Yeah, please.
Thank you.
We have a question here. Since Lynn Wells from the Pacific Tech Bridge, the changes in the guidelines that were announced on April 18th, what kind of changes were those in Japan's cyber guidelines?
Thank you, sir. So I have another slide. Sorry, I did it this morning. So now Japanese self-defense force have in budget 200 staffs for cybersecurity, and land, sea, and air force, which each air force have around 100. So totally 500 staffs in self-defense force now. And we decided a new guideline. So this guideline covers 5 years. So within 5 years, self-defense force will increase cybersecurity soldier over 1,000 within 5 years. They decided, but no record, just how say, not underground. Yeah, not written goal, but we share this goal. Or within 5 years, more than 1,000 soldiers in self-defense force.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Julian Kyle Lewis from the American University here in Washington. Just a quick question about something I missed. You were discussing like the 5 dimensions of the land, sea, air, space, and cyber. I heard you say cyber dimension is referred to like a hyper dimension.
Hyper.
So what did you say about space? What term did you use to describe space?
Space? Okay. So yeah, I also in charge of space policy. Yeah. So space means very simple. So space is expand of, I think, air. So now a new jet fighter communicate through a satellite, I think. So this is just one example. But maybe Japan can't reach space warfare now. So we should collaborate with the United States because China expand to space using their technology. So space is very important issue, I think. But in my opinion, at first cyber. Yeah. Sorry, I cannot make a correct answer for you.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you very much, Sensei, for your presentation. My name is Pascal Siegel. I work at Ankara Consulting. And last January at the World Economic Forum, your Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced the Osaka track for the G20 on data governance. I have three quick questions about this. Can you explain to me how this effort fits into your vision of cyber resiliency? And can you tell me what you hope would be the result of the Osaka track and what you expect the result to be?
Okay, so maybe cyber resilience never open to other countries, I think. Yeah. So and this cyber security and cyber resilience mission is closed. So maybe my colleague never understand what I do now in DC. Yeah, really. So just in my opinion. So my mission is just one, make a good collaboration between US and Japan. So with sorry, なんて水面下ってなんて underwater.
Underwater
Underwater. Yeah.
battle,
Yes.
or under the table. We might
Under
say,
table.
or-
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's extremely informative. Leo Scanlon, I'm with the Department of Health and Human Services. And in 2015, the U.S. Congress passed the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, which was an attempt to address some of the regulatory barriers that prevent sharing of cybersecurity information. What it did not address, and I would be interested in, because I think you alluded to it, there are other legal barriers, particularly shareholder lawsuits, that are a major barrier to corporations sharing cybersecurity information. And I wonder how you think that would work in U.S.-Japan collaboration, both at trade and at the legal level.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, okay. Yeah, but you mentioned this one. Yeah. Okay. So already we amendment cybersecurity basic law. So we make an obligation to our Japanese company establishing ISAC in every industry, and ISACs are under comprehensive ISAC association will be established next month. So this ISAC's purpose is information sharing, but very small. So for example, ISAC established in electronic information industry, for example, Hitachi, Toshiba, and so on. But around less than 10 companies join ISAC. Very small portion of. So this is a very big problem. But I think a major player of in each industry join ISAC is very good. And I think ISAC will cover all Japanese company, not all Japanese company, but major company. And ISAC will make a good link to US ISAC. I think this is a better way to protect US and Japanese industries, I think. Yeah, maybe information about cyber incident, far more information US have. So we just start. So I think US Japan ISAC cooperation must be useful for Japanese company and Japanese industry, I think. Thank you. Postal.
Paul Goldstein, President of Pacific Tech Bridge. One of the important questions in information sharing between the United States is classification, data classification, individual access to those classified areas.
Yeah.
is there a structure yet or law as well that Japan needs to establish in order to have the interoperable relationship with the United States?
ちょっと難しいですね。
Simplify the question. Data classification. Is there, how does a data classification system work in Japan today?
No.
There is no data classification
No.
system.
So you mean data classification means a level of confidence, access.
Secret, top secrets, special compartmentalized intelligence.
So Japanese government have a classification of a level of secret, but I think cannot work. Data classification. So how do you think about personal classification in Japan? So now in Japan, personal classification system, no personal classification system. So
In our discussions in Tokyo that Azuma-san and I had, as well as our other collaborator, Ediyama, there was issues of privacy.
privacy, yeah.
And that the government bureaucracy was very sensitive to the issue of privacy in Japan. And that there was a political as well as legal problems to overcome to be able to create this kind of classification system. Do you have an opinion in terms as a legislator how that would be rectified through legislation?
I think personal classification is very difficult by law, but I think private contract can cover personal classification, I think. So in my opinion, I have one concept of, you mentioned 2 eyes.
Right.
Yeah, so US and Japan should share information and intelligence in near future, I think. So, we should establish a new legal framework to protect information and intelligence of the United States, I think. Yeah, we should.
Between
So-
the Maritime Self-Defense Force and the US Navy, there is an interoperable system now because it's stovepiped, separate from the rest of the government. So
Sea Force,
it
just
is
Sea
working
Force.
in that area.
I see.
But we need it more broadly because
Okay.
of the threat environment that China, Russia, Iran pose
Yes.
globally.
Yeah. And so I should change. That situation, I should change.
More questions?
Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shane Pepe, and I'm a friend of Paul Goldstein's and an observer here. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about the early point you made about the Bushido way of life as integration into cyber resiliency. I think that's a fantastic idea. I myself, as a martial artist, have tried to implement the ways of Nasama Tobe in the way of the Bushido in my life, and it's amazing. And two questions I have. Would there be a U.S. collaboration with that on helping the Japan society understand and operate with the Bushido mindset in terms of cyber resiliency? And what would that integration look like? Do you have any ideas of how Japan could take the tenets of Bushido and integrate that into Japan's society, particularly with cybersecurity?
Okay. One question?
Two.
Two. Oh, sorry. So Bushido and
Yes.
sorry.
Bushido and
So the second question is, would the U.S. be able to help Japan with that integration?
Okay. Okay, thank you. So Bushido mindset is very important. So at first, Japanese government official should have a Bushido mindset. So now Japanese government officials very weak now, comparing 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, I joined METI. So 30 years ago, top of national university joined government. however, changed. So top of Japanese National University join American banks, really. So I should change. So most important point is Bushido means contribution without their own benefit. So a government official can work for nation and people. So I think this is a Bushido mindset. I think so. I revitalize Japanese government officials as a samurai. And second point is U.S.-Japan relationship, how to deepen. So I think I will. I will. Okay. So my proposal is agreement at first. I think a legal framework is very important because I'm a lawmaker. So I can do is making law. So I want to make a new agreement between government and government. And finally, we can make a treaty between US and Japan. Final goal is treaty, I think. So US-Japan security treaty should be include cyber security and space and so on, I think. Thank you.
I think that I will ask the last question if no one else has one. Can you give us a sense of the magnitude of the problem? For example, the US Navy has had problems with foreign governments accessing systems on ships, including navigation systems.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is, could they access weapons systems? How large is the problem in Japan with respect either to the military vulnerabilities or other hacking in the society and industry?
You can translate.
ハッキングとかで日本のアメリカだと海軍がその公開システムがハッキングされたけど兵器システムまでハッキングされるんじゃないかっていう心配があって、日本の特にミリタリーとかで今どういう危険を感じていらっしゃいますか？
It's a difficult question. Yeah, so frankly speaking, I have a small knowledge about self-defense force. However, I can guess self-defense force are cyber security, cyber protection technology is very low, I think. So, for example, maritime self-defense force, their system is a copy of US Navy system, I think. So I guess self-defense force people never understand risk of US system, I guess. So, Paul, please.
Yeah. The issue that we've discussed in Japan, and Dr. Wells and I have been in Japan several times together, and the problem is training, the depth of training required to have a sophisticated cyber resiliency program.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of training right now in Japan is very rudimentary. Some Israeli companies have come in and have begun a process of training Japanese corporations as well as Japanese government agencies and the self-defense force.
Yes.
My company represents pretty much one of the most advanced training companies. It's a former NSA created company called Point 3 Security. And they train all of our red cell organizations in the US military, and we are trying to localize their product in Japan because there are deep cultural issues of language as well as understanding of how these things work. So, Lynn, you want to say something on this? No?
Mm-hmm.
So we have an opportunity now to build the technology transfer and research and development cooperation. How is that done? That is all a work in progress at this point. It's going to be extremely difficult because of the lack of cultural training on the US side. You know, we lack the kind of depth required to be able to communicate cross-culturally, especially our military. This is a challenge that our university system is not up to meet these standards. So we have to start a whole different process. And right now, Daniel Morgan is like one of the up-and-coming emerging institutions that could maybe perhaps address these kinds of questions over the long term. If you go to the present university system, it's more about, you know, gender issues than national security issues. At the University of Virginia, for instance, there was the Center for National Security Policy set up, and the faculty voted to cut the funding. These are the kind, because they didn't want the University of Virginia to be associated with the Trump administration on national security. So you have serious political, cultural problems in the United States that has to also be addressed. It's not just a Japanese problem, it's our problem too. And we're hoping to begin to rectify that through our interaction with our various national security institutions.
If I may comment, one of the experience from the CME, Japan Self-Defense Forces, with Mr. Kano, who retired this March, we've been doing 5 years of a collaboration with CME and Japanese Self-Defense Forces. About 60, 70 students, actually Self-Defense Forces soldiers, have been sent to CME. Actually, most of the learning at the Software Engineering Institute, but with the SciLab and the SEI. And of course, the SEI has a really nice training programs. And of course, SciLab has all the penetration research too. One of the things that the SDF General was coming to on campus to CME every year encounter was that Japan is not a member of Five Eyes countries, where for real training or the real data, always there's a DoD barrier where every year our attaché goes to DoD, but still hasn't been cleared. So like his idea of like 2 eyes, forget about Five Eyes, and make sure that the soldiers are trained on the real data together with the U.S. And I think that should be the thing that he can actually help.
But in that, what Paul said earlier, the security, you mentioned also, the security law, having an effective information security system, having a personnel security system, having a classification system is important even for 2 eyes share.
Sure. Yes, sir. Sure. Yeah, so Mr. So I would like to tell you one amazing number. So $2 million for Japanese Self-Defense Force cyber security training budget. Just $2 million.
Jeez.
Crazy. Yeah. Next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Just $2 million. Amazing.
SDF said the ICF proposal was too expensive this morning.
Yeah. So Dr. Tomabechi introduced Carnegie Mellon University's cybersecurity training program for self-defense force. So they asked 0.6 million US dollar to self-defense force. So self-defense force said too expensive. Crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
please join me in thanking our guests.
Thank you very much.
We thank also the more than 100 people following us online.
Yes.
So that's very well. This is a very well-attended event with all that's out there. That so many people would also be joining us online.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
We're very grateful to Dr. Sinkin for arranging this, and Mr. Goldstein as well.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hope to see you again. We're having a success with even our military. Yes.
There's no way to come up with a the budget.
Yes.
So one of the ways that I'll be able
Yeah. Well, and more of the, I think it's problematic in our legal
Oh, wow.
system. $1 million for the entire, I don't know how many lawyers know about this. So having that,
Are you based here?
I think
it
it's
costs them about,
I should at least show them the capacity.
yes. And maybe even let them back for a while to find out who they're working for. And then something.
How are you? Good to see you. Sorry I was late.
Controversial.
Just for this?
I'm, do you work with?
Yes.
And usually think,
I would love to do my, I would definitely be interested in.
Yeah.
Keeping in touch because we're following.
Defending is so expensive.
Yeah.
It's like a time
Your,
Next year.
government's effort on the Osaka track, and I'd like to get a better feel for how you do this effort. You know, how do you assess its chances of success, what do you feel?
Well, we have discussed further.
That'd be great. So I'm assuming you are going back to Japan soon?
In Mayland
Oh, and May 11th. So you're staying in the.
for another week.
Oh, for another? So maybe we could coffee.
Yeah,
I will send you an, I will definitely send you an email.
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Right.
Yeah.
oh, very nice to meet you.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, you and I get information, all that, I sent forward detailed instructions.
Sure, yes.
Apart. When somebody will call, when you get there, I'll come down and meet you and take you.
Got it. And the vendor's starting at 1 p.m., right?
1 o'clock.
Got it.
I unfortunately have a 12 o'clock out out there, I take a lunch every day, but,
Sure.
it was just too, even forward in campus. and
Sure, absolutely.
I'll be done by 12:30, so anytime between 12:30.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Wells. Thank you.
It's great. Left them in the other shirt in the room.
Yes,
I'm not wearing it,
I
so I can't say well.
That's actually been on my mind for quite some time.
But send me an email, I'd love to.
The sheet away, and I, being a martial artist, I live, you know, I lived those 10 years in Tokyo, Bushido education, cyber resiliency is perfect. The issue
I'm
is
advising that it's the
waking people up
trying to do a Japanese.
and how to wake up
Well, I would love to stay in touch. It is a pleasure to meet you.
way of living. But now.
Thank you very much.
I don't have that answer. I
So
don't
it's
know. I
important
think
that
it's,
health
I think that should be the right direction.
talk about
It's not a daily thing, that's what.
So I didn't find Paul,
But
so just
in Japan,
tell him I'll see you after.
fiber
Sure,
is
absolutely. Thank you.
not connected
And,
to boats.
you know, and it's.
So, Fujisue may be the only rare person who is actually
And that's with any
serious
system,
about the finance.
you know.
Talk about, anything else, there's a lot of votes. Cyber, nobody votes for cyber.
No,
Because people don't think it's an actual thing.
Until May
do
11th.
the thanks.
Oh,
and
okay.
tell us
Oh,
very well.
I've seen something. One of my chiefs.
I think
Check humanity.
there's a reluctance,
He
the
got
Japanese
shit.
banks are not much of a target for terrorists.
And he was one of the first American kids
So I think
to
they
be
don't feel
put
that
to a
way.
Japanese
But they're going to.
studio.
Eventually.
And so
But
he
what
was
it takes
trained
about
by two
80
Bruce Lee
for that.
students. And then also
But
trained
he said that
under
even some
a
schools
South
don't
Korean
want
special
to-
forces
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
in Japan.
Like they wanted to.
And so he grew up training and he got involved in tournaments in Japan and everything. amazing. And then
The US is targeted around by
got
China.
into special warfare. Amazing guy. So he took me under his wing over 2 years ago. Now he trains me the way he was
They're not doing it.
particularly in Japan.
North Korea.
It is hard.
So North Korea.
It's great. Oh,
Did you introduce yourself? You haven't? Shut him up. Just Jeff Steinberg.
Great to meet you.
I'm joking.
I've been looking forward to it.
We should finally in person.
I know. Shall we go through the formalities
Formalities,
here? I
sure.
feel like I've known you for a year already.
Thank you.
Yeah, 580, 550.
I relish your
stolen by North Korea.
LaRue's presentation on the House
This
of
is
Windsor
Shane. He's been
That's the same
tracking
amount
the
of
LaRouche
UN
group
sanctions.
for how many years?
for
Right?
years.
And the last couple of years, I've been
North Korea
understanding and
150 million.
550 million, yeah.
it's
So no,
another.
there's last month there's a UN report.
It's crazy. But I mean, I love
Well,
it.
what he would always say to
It's the
people,
amount
he
of
said,
the
Paul,
sanctions.
your narrative makes
just one
no
company.
sense to anybody.
Right?
And he's been trying to help him
Invalidated
bridge
the
that
entire
gap.
UN
With
sanctions.
many of the people at our church, we all belong to Holy
Which is
Trinity.
about the same.
Yes.
Okay.
As a UN
Yeah,
sanction.
and he's gonna come next Sunday to, where were you two yesterday?
I was in New York.
Oh, that's right.
That's why financial services.
That's right.
is-
So I'll tell you the story
now,
behind the
like, really
story of
serious
Windsor
about
stuff.
it.
What happened to the
Appreciate
company
it.
that lost that money?
So they
1 o'clock
went
at George
bankrupt and was
Mason.
bought by a security firm.
Chris Liu is coming.
I thought the
Lieutenant Colonel Abraham, she's coming up from George, not George,
Currency
William and
as
Mary.
a
She's an
theory, like
Abe
blockchains
fellow,
are secure.
and we met
But they
together
didn't
in
actually use the
Tokyo.
blockchain.
So if you can make the Mason thing, it'll
They
just
had
give
their
you a
own
different
database.
mix of
Call
people.
it an
This
off-chain
was- had
software, but their own
100
database.
people
So the
online.
transactions
Really?
between
Yeah.
their clients are within the
That's
database.
a huge
And the
significance.
final result is updated in
And
blockchain,
This is
once a day or something, right? But the day-to-day
trying to
was inside
position
their
themselves.
database.
I
It's so
hope.
easy to
Where
hack.
did Fujisue go with Tom somewhere?
So now they are
Oh,
making
great.
a new law in the parliament
Maybe
now.
we can get
So
that.
that, for example, they have to separate out the assets of the clients from their own
That's what I
assets.
put there. Yeah, you
Separate
saw
out
it.
that their
Tom
own
gave me a
business.
look of daggers. I went and broke all protocol.
Yeah, of course.
So what do you
Because at
think,
least you
Leo?
can track the attacks and
It's
of course, hacking blockchain is
obviously
very
very
costly,
much modeled
takes too much time.
what
So
we've
they
looked at
cannot,
with the National Incident
with
Response Plan, the
550
structured
million was
class acts,
stolen overnight.
and it's clearly 10 years old.
If it was a
How could you make so
blockchain,
much money?
10 years behind.
yeah,
Well, we
they
wouldn't
just
do
have
this.
one key.
It depends
So
on
one
if you get
wallet
serious. But,
For 280,000
started in
clients.
9/11.
There was
That's when our
one
basic
key
law
for
went into
blockchain
place.
for 280
Right after 9/11.
280,000 clients.
And
So they
the
had
whole
the key.
ISAC structure.
So normally if you want,
the
you
only way
have
to
the
really,
key,
truly
you have the one
function at a
client,
large level is the
right?
financial system.
Maybe
Financial
$300,000,
system.
Yes.
right?
And,
But because there was
that's
a key for
because the control of the
280,000
currency
people, one
encouraged
key.
the banks
The
to join.
rest was inside the
Other than
database.
that,
Did you meet Jack?
This is totally,
Okay.
you know, the
so,
wrongdoing of
that's,
this.
that's,
is
that's a
cryptic.
similar problem, like the health ISAC is tiny percentage of the potential victims.
Well, I knew this was
Because
happening.
Health and Human Services
So
has
I
not
was
been encouraging.
telling the government to do, but they didn't do
So
anything
Treasury
until
did a
recently.
job.
So now they believe you?
Yeah,
They
Large
know
scale.
that you are.
took me 5 years to make them believe
And
those people
others,
are
so,
wrong.
I mean, I think the problem
Cyber
is really
So,
very
so
simple.
then,
Legislative issues,
they had to steal
legal issues,
550
we've got
million.
Yeah, to make them believe.
Believe
You can't.
These people don't want it.
Yeah, so even the cyber, I was a consultant to Japanese police 10 years ago, was
The
telling
sense
the
that
police, do the
DHS
cyber,
would
they
be
didn't listen.
a primary
So I
provider.
went to self-defense forces 5 years ago, the chief of joint staff listened to me. So I concentrated my effort only to SDF.
Secular.
He retired just this March, but I think within this fight, yeah, we created a collaboration with the CME and persuaded people like these days.
Are you coming tonight? Great. I think in terms of the informal discussion and the roundtable at the dinner after the formal presentations, let's have this kind of discussion because it really, getting through to the very arcane, we have an arcane bureaucracy. Japan is even more complicated.
Now people are saying.
I mean, the samurai code is only in the police.
They're the only functioning samurai institution in Japan.
It's a political mistake.
Not even in
One
America.
company in Japan invalidated the entire
The
United
military's looking over its shoulder constantly about Article 9, which prevents them from looking at this world through realistic glasses. It's always, you know, internally generated, are we still a pacifist country?
Somebody gonna lose the job.
Is our identity still to avoid, you know, confrontation?
Trying to persuade them.
And because of Japan-Russia behavior and Iran, this is a different game. And so getting Japan, you know, what Hidetoshi keeps saying, we need an external event. Why don't we run a covert op, you know, boom!
But having gone through the unforeseen consequences can really bite you in the rear end pretty badly.
That's the problem. That's the problem. And we've got a little bit of time because China's off balance. Japan is building a relationship with Russia. We got to overcome our paranoia about the Russians. Israel is much better situated to deal with Putin than even Trump. And we've got to figure out, you know, I have completely shifted on the Israeli question. Completely. Oh, he's in shock. You see the shock, Jack?
Yes, I gotta hear.
I had dinner with Mary last night and I said, look, I've changed on Israel. She said, it's about fucking time. She goes, what drove you into that state of mind? I said, bitterness. Simple bitterness. You know, all the crap we went through.
Projection.
Yeah. No, Jeffrey and I, we would always joke and say we set up a secret company called Two Jew Inc. You have two eyes and we had two Jews.
Based in Bangkok, Asian trading company.
A couple more beers and you'd have really a couple of good.
So, and we were at a dinner, Leo's anniversary dinner, and our Egyptian colleagues, you know, criticized some of the crap I put him through.
Hard to believe, Paul.
And I just blew up the dinner. Leo was going to kill me right there. If he had a gun, I would have been shot dead several years ago. I was
Before the exit, before the farewell.
So, you know, I have there's bodies strewn in my history, you know, brains on the floor, you know, everything. You know. And these two kept trying to go, what's wrong with this guy? Jeff now has confessed that he wished he hadn't made so many jokes. He wanted some other people dead.
I always said he would have been in jail for murder if it wasn't for my sense of humor. I said, you know, I've revised my view on that. I might have actually made a mistake in judgment.
There's still time.
Now you look at
Slowing
this.
down
No,
a little bit.
seriously, you look at this anti-Semitic incident. This is insane, and it is anti-Semitism, and they want to call it hate crimes. This ain't a hate crime. This is anti-Semitism. You know, gun violence. Please, that's not the issue here. Something's happening in our culture, and the schmuck in the White House is emboldening this. That's why I make fun of the white people. Remember my joking with you? White people can never understand anything. Excellent. Really. This is my dear friend Jeff Steinberg. He's the executive. And Leo is my former brother-in-law. Yes. Our kids grew up together. But Leo was the HHS deputy CISO and had experience in coordinating the entire U.S. government. And tonight he's coming to dinner tonight. If you can make it to dinner at the Sheraton tonight, Pentagon Sheraton City, we're having about hopefully 20 to 25 people there. Okay.
not only Chinese and R&D is always get leaked somehow, right?
Yes, it does.
And then while the Japanese still
Yes.
NSA
Okay.
15 years
In front of this?
Yes.
Okay, please.
Make it
Jack, come here.
So I'm trying to make the plan closer to the
Come.
US. military.
Take off your coat, please. Make
At
yourself
least
look
because
presentable.
Dr. Tomabechi,
It means he'll have to review about 5
could I
different
take a
weapons.
group
but-
picture?
And I would like to get one as well.
Sure.
So-
We're supposed to do these.
And I'm going to take another one
Social
with my
media.
phone for our school.
May I have one where I stand next to
And,
the?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Then I'll switch with you.
No,
That's it.
We have to come in closer on this side.
Here, this one.
Martial arts.
You can turn it sideways, you know. Horizontally.
I have everyone.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And another one.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm
Thank
going
you.
to take another one here.
Whose phone is that?
I'll step out and let you sit.
I know,
sit
yes.
next to
Oh,
me.
no, no,
no,
stay,
no,
please
no.
stay there.
No, no.
Okay.
Tom, please.
No, I want him to sit next to me.
No, no, no.
No, no, no.
Maybe you should. No, come on, guys.
This is all going to the agency anyway.
Yeah, okay, well, in that case, since you mentioned that.
Okay, then I need to get one more.
One more.
Whose phone is this?
I think it's, yeah, it's Jeff's.
That's Steinfurt, otherwise known as Berg.
Okay. I need to move this, this is creating a problem with the,
Okay, too bright.
it's too bright. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Shane, why don't you just explain Rob to them?
Oh,
Yeah, tonight he can't make it, but you're,
so,
So I'd like a few
one of my
velocity.
mentors who took me under his wing at the martial arts studio about 2 years ago, he's lieutenant commander with the Navy, and he was with Naval Special Warfare. So one of the hats he also wears is with ONI, Naval Intelligence. And so he was shipped to Japan when he was 9 or 10 to train in the Japanese martial arts studio. And he was one of the first American kids to be accepted into one. And then he was trained under 2 of Bruce Lee's original students. And so he, throughout the years, got involved in tournaments and then went to the Navy, got involved in Naval Special Warfare, was attached to a SEAL team for a number of years. So he trained to me the way he was trained. And it hurts a lot. But
The real martial arts.
yeah, it's the real deal.
It's rare in Japan now, too.
Yeah, it's the real deal. But he's also helped me understand the ways of Bushido and the way of the warrior. You know, and so hopefully he won't be able to make it tonight, but he did tell me today to get back to him about a different time that he can meet everyone because he'd really like to.
so we just got to be flexible in the schedule. Tomorrow we have an 11 o'clock and then
Can I
2
take a
o'clock.
picture of you in front of the?
Oh, okay.
Try to see what it can work. Just this guy.
Thank you. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Oh, Frank, could you get one more? Would you mind, Sensei, for the 2? Maybe if you could have media screen.
Let me move this.
Make a request for you to teach it.
That would be very nice.
Work with Tom's. Okay.
Oh, really?
As you mentioned, when we created in Japanese, 秘密保護法 secret protection law.
Right.
There was a lot of a leftist claim of privacy and so forth and so forth. So that made the government really
Nervous,
yeah.
nervous.
So that's why the Dr. Fujisue is suggesting person-based claims law instead of entire government-based. So that's one way to do it. But as you said, like military personnel, Japanese FDS is already integrated U.S. military. There's no way to stop them from accessing the actual training program to strengthen them. That's why I had the same.
Yeah, good experience.
I'd like to introduce you,
it's great.
at some point with Point Three.
Very impressed, but very
Get you
disappointed.
in that circle.
Yeah,
You may even-
once
Once
absolutely,
you
I
get
have no
resolved
chance
work,
to
crazy
use
civil work
English
with them.
in Japan. No chance.
It's up in Baltimore, so it's,
Yeah, this, this morning, I
So,
and I
yeah,
have a
I'll
lesson.
set that up.
Plus,
Oh, really?
I thought he said that the level of the understanding of Japanese private sector for importance of cybersecurity and other securities is very low. So I feel I understand the fear of DoD, okay? Once it goes to Japanese
even when I was- my Japanese language was
JSDF,
better.
Hitachi, Mitsubishi, Fujitsu get hold on it.
But,
And of
even
course,
when I was
there
very
is
good,
no way that to prevent the Chinese
better than
from
this.
getting the info
Like
from
Paul
Fujitsu, for
Barry
example.
No one was going to
And
take
that
this
is
Japanese.
true, yeah.
We-
But for me, it's a
It was
training
the
program,
first
not
thing
the.
they'll say.
Right.
We find here that the major corporations that have strong cybersecurity, their biggest fear is shareholder lawsuits if the information
Yes,
gets out.
yes, yeah.
What's
Yeah,
exactly-
I wanted to translate
there's some-
that to him, but I
figured
didn't.
Yeah,
He wasn't understanding
that
the
is-
part.
That's like
Yeah, sure.
the
I know.
big fight right
I know,
now.
I know.
Thing is,
I know.
so,
The question that,
It's much
I
harder.
think our side
Yes,
has
my
to
listening
address
comprehension.
is to see Japan as our number one ally.
It's very hard.
It really,
And once
that is a
explained it to
cultural
somebody,
issue, because
said,
we were
"Oh,
so
you're so
Atlanticist
I
focused.
said, no.
The number one think
It's
tank
like
in Washington was the
driving
Atlantic
down a
Council.
4-lane highway.
And when Colonel Wilhelm, an Army colonel, served in Beijing with Phil
And then
Midland,
suddenly.
proposed
I go
that
into
it
the
change the
Japanese
name to the
tunnel.
Atlantic and Pacific
One
Council.
lane, and I had
He
to
said,
try
"I'm fired."
hard not to hit the.
But
No, he left. No, he wasn't fired. He left. He was completely
So I-
frustrated
maybe I
with our
was
system.
communicating,
That's how
but I have
stupid.
very-
And then in my own network,
You know
when I
what
was
mean.
pushing the
That's how I
Asia
describe it.
focus,
So I
Jim
can get to where I
Krupe,
wanna
Chris
go,
Willis,
but
they went berserk.
And I don't
You're
have that
abandoning our
room for
traditional European allies
Nuance.
for an uncertain thing
Nuance
called
of-
Japan.
Sure.
And so,
But there's a European.
it just
But Frank speaks,
I mean, it's
Mongolian,
just,
Swahili,
and
and Albanian.
boiled up anger in me because this cultural bias to looking to
Some
understand the East. The East doesn't operate, and Jack and I were talking
He's a
about
Spanish
this last night.
I know no words.
Just say what you said to me. He said, don't they see the advantage in the trade talk of cheaper prices of consumer goods for Japan? And I said, no, they don't. It's about protection.
Russia, North Korea, China, there's a swimming distance from Japan. Whereas there's a big European continent in between the EU and China and Russia.
So does that.
Or a very long swim to the west coast. Very long.
And the size of the Pacific, people, I was discussing this with my wife, she's on the House Armed Services Committee, we're discussing building more aircraft carriers. She goes, you realize that it's such a large ocean, an aircraft carrier gets lost.
Yeah. I was at a conference on the PLA, and someone raised the question about the significance of the Marine base in Darwin. And a Navy captain put up a map on the board. He said, the closest point from Darwin to the coast of China is 1,100 nautical miles. Is that really relevant to the immediate Pacific, that region?
But it's that's what Fujisue laid out. Conceptually, the domains of warfare is completely being transformed by the digital era.
Well, and he was talking about space too.
Yes, space and the space issue we were discussing, we have to deepen the cooperation in space. And we know the chairman of JR Central, Kasai-san's on the space committee, and the little asteroid event that the Japanese, that's the beginning of
changing.
No.
And if tonight, a NASA engineer named Dave Confeld,
Oh, yes.
if he comes tonight, he was in all the secret skunk works. He's part of the network. See, the problem with Guy Michel, they love the name. Armitage, Green, they love the name.
Oh, Guy Michel doesn't do anything.
Prime
The
Minister.
diplomat. So the job is to talk to other diplomats.
Right.
No, they go beyond that. They go beyond that.
Or is it?
But no, we're looking to get a
Oh, there he
contract.
is.
You know, we lost one to JPAC because there's a lack of understanding that the United States, Washington arena is a lost soul.
Yeah, really. Oh, this
You
is-
operate here in Washington, you get no
Thank you so
influence.
much.
And Jack tonight is going to present how we're going
If
to
you don't
build a
mind, I'm going to give it
grassroots
to my
political
wife. She'll do
movement
that.
that is going to change the character of the American
She'll
people's
really
view of
appreciate it.
Japan
Thank you.
and
So this is
Israel.
very unique.
Because
Because,
in terms
just
of
one shop.
cyber cooperation, the Israelis are
Just
way
one
up
shop
there.
selling them.
And we have to create the conditions by which we can vet those Israeli companies that are making money with China.
So why they go
Which-
China? Why?
Well, that's the Israelis, you know. Chasing the shekel means sometimes more than national security.
And the Chinese understood that so very well.
Not all the time.
We'll have you-
Come on, Jack.
Not all the time.
Next year.
So, and we have to deepen this cooperation in this world.
Administration is basically bypassing the Guy Michel now.
I think,
So
you know,
there's also,
Japan
so
would
if
be
we
well
help the
served.
Guy Michel again,
that's such a
there will be our
sophisticated,
help again.
man.
We're,
Make them happy.
Guy Michel has to come and say, okay, we'll hire PTP. They, right now, my reputation in Guy Michel is probably at its lowest because the young diplomats can't handle my personality. I overwhelm them. And Yamagami said to me, they have spines of eclair, you know, and I just, when I start aggressively talking, they don't say anything. Can you imagine that?
I know, I just.
Maybe
Maybe
we should propose a contract that will help them get their relationship restored with the Prime Minister's office.
Yeah, right. They'll be motivated.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. Sumimasen.
Oh, okay.
Kayama-san sends his personal regards. He regrets he could not be here.
Oh,
No, he wanted me to extend that to you.
okay, thank you.
He's Jetro Metri.
Oh, Jetro, yes.
And he's returning to Tokyo at the end of this month, and I'm going to be meeting his replacement. We're on.
I gotta get ready for my next. You can stay as long as you want, guys.
No, we're.
Collude and conspire.
Wednesday, could I
Yes.
perhaps
I remember,
bring I need with my Japanese wisdom the Allen Stan UVA
Yeah, I'll send you
professor.
Maybe
I'll send you the information.
Could I use your conference room or anything like that?
Send me an email and I will check and see. I don't know if it's available or not.
Okay.
If it is, fine, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you. So as my office is closed, they're all in
Yes,
Shanghai.
yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
This,
Send me a note
Okay,
and I'll
thanks.
check the schedule. And if I
Great.
can accommodate, of course,
Thank you, thank you, Tom.
So
naturally.
Emperor decided.
Gentlemen.
So we're in a different universe.
Thank you very much.
And
very much.
the traditional alliance managers, the traditional relationships aren't going to enhance to meet the challenges that we've got now. And a whole new way of thinking. Look, Japan wants to cut a deal with Russia, but you come into this town, you talk about Russia, people go psychotic. And the man sitting in the
This has been
back,
for several decades.
the man sitting in the back, Jeff Frank, Department of Justice, Jeff, Leo, he gave me a briefing on how bad the FBI is.
Oh, really?
He was DOJ National Security. He's now retired, but he was sent there. One of these, coincidences? Wasn't a coincidence. So be in touch with us.
No.
Jeff, Leo?
He's trying to send me the address for the next event. Hang on. There. Oh, yeah. That's what we want.
At George Mason.
Yeah.
And what he went through on the problems in the FBI and the DOJ was shocking.
How long ago did he leave?
Just a couple of years ago. And he's married to a Japanese woman. but he went through in detail how Comey, he said Comey's an idiot. There is about 2 or 3 dozen corrupt cops in DOJ and FBI. Many of the people that...
2 or 3 dozen.
Yeah.
A dozen.
In DOJ and FBI. He said one of the guys that was working in the IG office just went to the protection, what's the name? Civil Rights Protection Organization about these.
Division, you mean?
No, there's a private, ACLU created this thing
Oh, the
called.
Government Accountability Project?
No. It's called Protection of Civil Rights. They belong to the DNC. He said there's a total collusion between the DNC, DOJ, and FBI. And he said, you know, too many people want to protect the institution, not the issue of civil rights. I mean, he went through the Levy guidelines, the Reno reforms, all the way back to French Smith when he was Reagan's Attorney General. And the thing that became part of the problem is you go after the crime, not the person. Now they're going after the person, not the crime. That culture has completely shifted. So I went through the raids on our offices in '86. I went through the background. It says nothing's changed.
It was described to me that there's 2 kinds of people that move up the bureaucracy at FBI and DOJ, zealots and incompetents. And it's hard to say which is worse. The combination of the 2 is really poisonous, because if you go into the criminal division of the Justice Department and you really are talented and ambitious, you spend 2 years there, get your basic skills, and then go to the private sector. So it's always a stepping stone to lucrative private sector jobs, unless you're mediocre or unless you are corrupt or a complete zealot of prosecutions.
Thank you so much.
And we had over 100 people following online.
That's fantastic.
That's a
Well
lot.
attended. With all the competition on the internet, we have a following.
Wow.
Well, why don't you just give a little background how this was set up, just quickly to educate people?
Well, we were founded in 2014, and our first semester was January 2015. And we were founded to focus on national security. And we don't have any restrictions of political correctness or other such.
And the building hasn't been bombed yet?
Jeffrey.
And we emphasize having practitioners who have actually worked.
Most of your professors are CIA?
Well, different, the military, the State Department, different backgrounds like that.
Yeah.
It's a national security institution.
Yes. So we,
This is one of the up-and-coming ones that we should build a closer relationship between Japan and the U.S. Because Brookings, Heritage, they're all good, but irrelevant. Heritage less so, because of the Taiwan question. They get their money from Taiwan. It's like the Foreign Policy Research Institute in Philadelphia that I was an adjunct fellow at. They get their money from Taiwan. So there were certain singularities in our system that weren't captured by the Chinese magic, you know. And we were explaining this. We were at a meeting with the chairman of JR Central, which is their magnetic levitation infrastructure, Shinkansen high-speed train. And he asked me, what happened to the U.S. and China? What was it? I said, our missionary culture. China was viewed as being oppressed by European imperialism, European colonialism, Japanese militarism.
That's because they were.
And we then lent everything of our heart and soul to helping uplift China. And that was when Deng Xiaoping came into power, we made that deal. And bing! I'm at the Nakasone Peace Institute, and Professor Kubo Fumiaki asked me a question. He said, so the Chinese were successful in running a deception operation against you? I said, no.
we know the man.
Wait, let me finish the point. I said, no. He goes, what happened? I said, delusion. We were delusional.
But you know, the man who discovered Henry Kissinger, Dr. Fritz Kramer.
Sure. Yes, we know.
He told me that he said to Kissinger before he went to China in '72, he said, Henry, He put his monocle in.
Yes, we know. He was a Prussian officer.
Right.
Henry, do not make any concessions on Taiwan. Don't do it. And as a result, he never spoke to Kissinger after.
Yeah.
for
The
many
Shanghai
years.
Communique fucked out everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the TRA, the Taiwan Relations Act, was Congress's check on presidential power. And now it's been upgraded a little bit with the ARIA, the Assurance, ARIA, I think it's called. It's the enhancement of the TRA, in which now American military officers can go in their uniforms to Taiwan. We're sending the Marines in to protect the institute in Taiwan, which is technically not an embassy. And then we're doing freedom of navigation operations with our aircraft carriers in the Taiwan Straits. And the Chinese just sent 6 jets over Taiwan. And China, if they want, could just unleash a aerial and missile bombardment and level Taiwan. And what would we do? So this is the paradox right now of what we're facing. And Japan is the frontline state, and the one country that has always helped Taiwan was Japan. Japan's colonization, annexation of Taiwan was run by the Navy, not by the Army. And that created a whole different feeling in the Taiwanese people toward Japan. Japan is loved in Taiwan, really culturally. And we ignored Japan because they were the defeated power. The Japanese would always tell me when I was going in the 1980s, why don't you listen to us sometime about 2,000 years of experience with China? And our people would go, what does Japan know about China?
Just
They screwed up, they just got defeated, exactly.
A problem with American culture.
Absolutely right, that was my point.
We're focused on current events, predict the future. What do we need to study history for?
Right. Yeah.
And then by history, they mean something that happened 3
Yesterday.
years ago, a year ago, yesterday.
But you see, the beauty of Judaism at Passover, and we were discussing this, you remember. You teach your children to remember your history. And that's really, you know, the Passover Seder is sacred in that sense, that you're teaching about the oppression.
Of more than 2,000 years ago.
5,000. It's almost 6 now.
Right.
And the Chinese played that with the Israelis, that the only oldest civilization is China and Jewish. And Jewish. Chinese, and they have the Shanghai ghetto, which allowed refugees
Yes.
Yeah.
from Nazi Germany
Yes,
to
yes.
come and live. I went to there, and the Chinese Communist Party guide is trying to show me how much he knows about, you know, Jews and the ghetto and this, and I started, because I was a rabbinical student as a kid. I was going to Hebrew school. And I started espousing, he goes, can you take the mic?
Paul's never given it back since.
No, but they were saying how there's an affinity between Jews and Chinese. Goldman, Dave Goldman.
Also, Shaul Eisenberg's history.
You have and so it's understanding, and in Japan you have conspiracy theories about Jews, that they run the world. At the
That's in many places.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's Goldman Sachs. I went into the Cannon Institute. I gave my first presentation, and I said, many of you here think Goldman Sachs runs the United States, and laughter.
And then heads nodding.
And I think in Chen and Kaifeng, there's an even older.
There's a Jewish, yeah,
Goes back
Jewish,
to the
yeah.
1600s.
69, yeah. But this goes back even earlier. And then the trading routes, the Silk Road concept, the Chinese claim credit for it. It was Persian.
That's true.
Then the modern version of it was Venice. The Chinese didn't invent anything. Plus, they stole the Mitsubishi Global Infrastructure Fund, which was 1979. Mitsubishi Research Institute had a global plan for global infrastructure. I met the chairman, and Lynn met the chairman, and we were in Japan, discussing how to build global infrastructure. But it wasn't a free market concept. It was a government-directed concept in which credit would be allocated for infrastructure projects. Called Hamilton. That was what Hamilton's economics were about. But we went with the British model. And that's what screwed us up. going with JP Morgan was the central banker until the Fed was created.
Yes.
Because Morgan had a gold shortage. World War I was coming along in
The Federal Reserve was created in 1913.
1913.
1913 in Jekyll Island by the Warburgs and the Rockefellers.
The
And
Christmas
there's
break,
more
yeah.
conspiracy. We needed a central bank because we eliminated the U.S. National Bank in 1832. Remember, we had two national banks. Hamilton's report on credit and Hamilton's report on
National Bank.
national banking to the Congress in 1791 outlined how we were going to build the United States into an industrial power. The Jeffersonian vision was the yeomanry, agriculture.
Agriculture.
And thank God Hamilton won that debate. And then we fought the Civil War, and then we eliminated the national banking. So we went to high tariffs to finance government revenue for infrastructure. And that's how we built our national railroad system in 1869, when the giant spike in Utah. See there, you contributed something from Nebraska. You from? Where are you from? Wyoming, that's right.
That's
where
where the
where
gold
deer
came
and the
from for
antelope
spike,
play.
though.
And you know, the federal government gave a lot of grants of land to railroads, and they
Sure.
used some of the land and they sold the rest to raise capital.
And built the university system. All the
land
state,
grant.
the land grant colleges.
Right.
Michigan, Wisconsin, were all
Rutgers.
built along the railroads.
I see.
That's when we had infrastructure, when we thought, and Japan adopted the American system of political economy during the Meiji period. That was the one contribution we made, which the British didn't get. The Bank of Japan was modeled on the U.S. national banking. But it was
Hamilton's
first
idea was, there's a lot of private capital, how do you incentivize it to be used for national projects? So you create interest rates. I mean, the whole history of the full faith and credit of the US dollar is that we were absolutely committed to paying back all the loans. And a lot of people at the end of the American Revolution said, why should we pay back these scoundrels who basically bought at a discount the money that was owed to the soldiers who fought in the Revolution? But Hamilton
Not
said
the
no.
soldiers, Revolutionary War officers.
Yeah, yeah. And Hamilton said, no, you've got to establish that our credit is 100% guaranteed. And that's been the history of the country. That's part of the whole Hamiltonian idea.
The full faith and credit of the U.S. dollar is backed not just by our economy, but by our global position as a superpower. And China, Russia, the cryptocurrencies have all been trying to undermine that camp. Because American and Japan during the Asian financial crisis, Nomura researched, Richard Koo, he's famous, he argued with me that you guys are bankrupt, the dollar should be worthless, et cetera, et cetera. I said, hey, you just left out one thing. Who guarantees your oil? Who guarantees your security? Who guarantees, so the full value of the dollar is based on America being the dominant power. He went, ooh. That's the problem with economists. Classically trained economists don't put A and B together. This is a complex society, complex world,
Yes.
and Trump came in and busted up the old system. That's all he's done. Now we have to figure out what the new system will look like, and that we need Japan. Japan's never gave up on manufacturing, infrastructure, and that kind of technology. Japan's power is in its robotics and the production of the high-end manufacturing, where we went with the financial model. 2008, 2009.
I don't think we even produce a light bulb in the United States. Not even one. They're not manufactured any, I can't believe it.
So the American first thing is, you know, the nutcases in the establishment. Nationalism, protectionism, big deal.
We don't even produce a vacuum cleaner. My grandmother's house has a vacuum cleaner that she bought in 1935. The motor, it still runs. She had a gas refrigerator, gas-operated refrigerator from Servelle. She also bought it in the 1930s. It died in 2008. It has no moving parts.
Well, as Leo would always say to me, the Japanese went with Deming. That was it. We gave up on Deming.
Yeah.
Industrial management. You know this, we gave up. We went with, you know, the money changers in the temple, now called Wall Street.
store run by Jews.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The money changers have all kinds of variety of, names now. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Sorry I arrived late, I flew up.
Over this afternoon?
Yes.
Nice
Oh,
meeting you.
okay.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, I had your name on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Check out our
Right here for
house
the last
martial
few
arts.
minutes.
Okay.
I was here with Professor Kumar a few months back, and we met the, I guess, the dean,
Yeah.
former
It's
CIA
been very
scholar,
very
and,
important.
from Patterson, New Jersey.
I lived in Marshall.
That's where my wife is from,
And
so we
being
had
for
a.
infrastructure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Combine that
Well,
with
that's,
soldier.
do you live in Florida now, or?
Yeah.
Amazing, you know.
Miami or?
Is from
Palm Beach County.
Oh, Palm Beach County?
you know, the little bit middle nose Japanese.
Is that the
Our
county
family
where
was
the,
Wesley.
Russians-
So with the first
Oh,
part
yes.
of our eyes was our
Oh,
family.
yeah.
Wesley.
Oh, yeah.
Then
yeah.
became Takeda.
Yep.
Yeah.
So martial art is kind of a
Orchids of
cousin.
Asia.
Yes,
Sisters.
yes.
There's not a strip mall anywhere in Florida that doesn't have a Chinese
If anyone would like
massage
to give me
parlor.
their name tag.
Not big on subtlety.
May I?
I know, that's why he wears his coat.
You want to keep this, or?
No,
may I?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna head out. I will see you tonight. By the way,
I'm gonna get there early. I think we should set up a presentation tonight. I hope to have the same thing to do a presentation at the restaurant. At the restaurant? Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
You are amazing guy.
Oh,
Thank
you.
Systema?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because at my studio and then who trains me privately, they have blended all that together. So that's what I call my toolkit. And so it's amazing.
Amazing.
It's in it's called Crowdworks. That'll be good.